We have some breaking news to tell you about, breaking in the New York Times. We're learning that today the Garland Justice Department has taken one of its most concrete steps yet to erase 4 years of gross politicization of the vast prosecutorial power of the United States Justice Department. The story will sound familiar, even if the actors aren't. Bill Barr, at the urging of Donald Trump, was investigating Donald Trump's ex-national security advisor, John Bolton, for allegedly disclosing classified information. The problem for the Barr DOJ was always this. A career national security official had reviewed Bolton's manuscript and had testified to the opposite, that there was no classified information. She'd cleared it. Her name is Ellen Knight. She's a former senior director at the National Security Council who conducted that pre-publication review of Bolton's book. Here's what her lawyer writes, quote, upon the first reading, it was apparent to Ms. Knight that the manuscript contained voluminous amounts of classified information. It would take a significant effort to put it into publishable shape. The ensuing review ultimately became the most intensive pre-publication review process in recent memory at the NSC. As a last step in the process, Ms. Knight gave the manuscript to the acting director for access management, a 20-year classified information expert with original classification authority, who to that point had not been involved in the Bolton review. He carefully read the manuscript to confirm, and he did confirm, that it no longer contained any sensitive or classified information. John Bolton had that letter before he published his book. Ken Weinstein was one of the lawyers involved in today's breaking news. And let me read from the New York Times account of this development. Under the headline, let me get it right, Barr rebuke from the Garland Justice Department. The Justice Department has closed a criminal investigation into whether a disparaging memoir by President Donald Trump's national security advisor, John Bolton, illegally disclosed classified information, and it is finalizing a deal to drop its lawsuit aimed at recouping profits from the book, according to two people briefed on the matter. Let me bring into our conversation, as if on cue, Frank Figliuzzi, former FBI Assistant Director for Counterintelligence, host of the podcast The Bureau, and Charlie Sykes, editor-at-large of The Bulwark, both, lucky for us, MSNBC contributors. I'm sorry to throw breaking news on both of you, but if there's a story that both of you can handle better than anyone, it's this one. So, Frank Figliuzzi, explain how this ever got out the gate when the process of removing any classified information was one that was attested to by career national security officials. The Barr DOJ seemingly proceeded with a criminal investigation anyway.
Well, you've kind of answered your question by the content of the question. By that, I mean this could not have happened if both the White House and the DOJ were in on it, right? So the White House could be upset that someone's publishing a kind of tell-all book about the inner workings of national security discussions during the Trump administration. But in order to go scorched earth and absolutely go after the proceeds of the book, try to block it from being ever published, you got to have your AG in on it, and you got to have some prosecutors in on it. And that's how this was allowed to happen. This was just another case of trying to silence somebody. Depending, no matter what you think of John Bolton, this was an effort to silence a man who simply wanted to tell his story. And Trump didn't like the story, and he brought in his DOJ to do his bidding. Today, Merrick Garland's DOJ is saying enough is enough. No criminal case. And by the way, it appears from this reporting, John Bolton can likely get the proceeds from the sales of his book.
You know, this feels like it's about the tip of the iceberg that is showing us that underneath is something so much uglier, Charlie. And by that, John Bolton is no political ally of the Biden administration. But if this case was politicized, if this was about factless, baseless political retribution, what do people think he did to Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell? For you, Charlie.
It is that
Charlie, you're frozen and we can't hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, I can hear you now. No, if there's a theme to the news today, it is that normality is newsworthy. When you have the president actually behave like the president of the United States at an international summit, and the attorney general basically saying that we're not going to use the power of the federal government to simply ignore all of our laws and suppress speech. Look, this was This was a rogue administration, and we knew this. What I think is becoming more and more clear is how far the abuses of law enforcement would have gone on this administration if there had not been pushback occasionally. But in this particular case, in a lot of ways, it's not surprising, that Donald Trump is sitting in the Oval Office and he's issuing orders to his Department of Justice to harass and punish his critics. This is exactly the kind of abuse of power that you don't want to see. It's the kind of abuse of power that other attorney generals would have resisted and pushed back against. And so it is refreshing to see that we're kind of reverting to the norm, that the president of the United States should not be able to crush his opponents in the way that Donald Trump tried to crush many of his critics, including John Bolton.
I want to bring into our conversation one of the reporters who broke this story at the New York Times, Washington correspondent Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt, what do you know about the process, the review process for this Bolton case by the Garland Justice Department?
Well, when the Garland Justice Department came in, they sort of looked at this case as they looked at a range of other matters that the Trump Barr Justice Department had done and sort of evaluated it. It's similar to the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit decision that was made last week. They looked at this decision and they realized that allowing a lawsuit to move forward would, it could potentially expose some wrongdoing on the side of the Trump administration and the Justice Department. But that was no reason for essentially a meritless suit to move forward. And they were willing to put this matter behind them and to reach this deal. And the most important, there's two major aspects here for Bolton. The first is that he gets to keep his money from the book. The government will not try to recoup that money because of how the Barr Justice Department said he didn't follow the pre-publication review process. That's the way that his book was reviewed for classified information. The second thing is that the criminal investigation has been closed. We know as of last fall, the Barr Justice Department was looking at whether Bolton had broken the law by disclosing these classified details, what Trump said was classified details in his book. And now Bolton being told by the Justice Department that has been closed.
What does it say that this Justice Department looked at the facts and didn't think the facts measured up to a standard to criminally prosecute John Bolton? Were facts manufactured by the Barr Justice Department? Were facts politicized? It feels like a pretty clear rebuke of the most sacred powers of the United States Justice Department, criminal investigations and criminal prosecutions.
Well, it certainly is a significant reversal of a position that the Barr Justice Department took, perhaps one of the biggest ones that we have seen since since Garland has come in. There have been a lot of questions about what Garland is going to sort of back up or go along with that had begun under Barr. And this is one of them that they put an end to. And if you think back to it, this was a wide-ranging effort by the Justice Department that had used both its civil and criminal powers to examine Bolton. Remember, they tried civilly to initially stop the publication of the book by going to court. And it was in the aftermath of that the criminal investigation was opened.